Hi. I might go wonky any second because my holder's playing up. I thought I'd better check in with you here. It might be a weird one today because if you've been following any of my videos, you've not kind of been consumed by all of this Hollywood drama that's going on about the movie It Ends With Us and Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Because it's just so fascinating to me on so many levels, and also with what I'm currently trying to do in my own life and tapping more into being a higher being and all of that, trying to rise above grievances and judgment and wanting justice about all kinds of things. So for me, movies and TV and books has always been a big thing in my life, and for some reason I've always been really, really good at hanging on to information about actors, actresses, movies, lines. I wish I was as equally capable of remembering all the stuff that's to do with hypnotherapy, but for some reason I should probably be a Hollywood writer of some kind or another, or a film critic, because it's just comes so naturally to me. I think it's because it was such a coping mechanism when I was growing up, as a lifeline. So learning hypnotherapy is actually a lot harder and a lot, I prefer fiction over non-fiction, if I'm entirely honest. So when it comes to learning, I do tend to learn more about I can drag up random TV or movie information on a whim. And yeah, I'm currently working my way through a course in miracles too, which is a daily practice that you do for a year, which is all about finding the way to what's real in life, which according to A Course in Miracles is God. And if God doesn't sit right with you, you can just call it love. And the whole thing so far, I'm up to about 90 days, it's all about this idea of not carrying grievances around, because grievances is simply feeding your ego, really, and we don't want to be feeding our egos, because our egos aren't a real thing. They're just that voice in our heads that likes conflict and likes winners and losers and likes to feel like something was done to it and justice needs to be served or some kind of revenge has to happen, and isn't it all unfair and life's never going to be any better. That's your ego. So obviously, like, you're carrying around grievances and something needs to happen in order to have justice or to be fair or whatever it is. You're feeding your ego in essence, which makes you more and more separate from the whole, because we are all connected. I've talked about this before, how we all are connected. We're all equals. We're all here for a reason. So then you get like a story like what's going on right now. And if you don't know what's going on right now with the movie It Ends With Us and Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, if you Google it, you might lose like a year of your life, because at this point there's so much gone on and so much he said, she said, and it's not looking good for Blake Lively and her husband right now, given all the evidence that's come out against them, and there's nothing really coming from their camp that justifies it all. And justifies is an interesting word, because the person that they've been at war with is called Justin, and at this point I'm starting to wonder if that name isn't kind of some kind of message in itself about justice and Justin, because he is looking like quite a good guy at the moment with the information we have to hand right now, and it's looking very much like they've very much done the dirty on him and wrested control over his movie, his project, in a very targeted and long-running campaign. And also it's looking like Ryan Reynolds mocked him throughout his own movie Deadpool and Wolverine with the use of this character Nice Pool, by ripping to shreds everything that's associated with this man and his whole belief system, really, and also dragging his friends in as well, whether knowingly or unknowingly, to help him mock Justin. So to me it's been so interesting, because it taps into how interested I am in movies and stuff like that, and I don't know where it is, whether it's the glamour or the backstories or whatever it is that appeals to me. So I've been kind of watching this quite avidly, but at the same time thinking, this is a bit like doom scrolling in a way, and I shouldn't possibly be listening to all these people that have grievances with each other. But this all might be a bit woo-woo for you, what I say next, but I kind of, I've done a lot of reading and stuff and all of that, and I am quite a spiritual person, but I also tend to think that I like to keep one foot in logic and I like things to be proved too. But if it's true that we're all like higher beings, these spiritual beings, and we're trapped here having a human experience, and we come here for a purpose, to serve some kind of purpose. So if you believe in that, then you have to think that at some point in the past, when she was up there as a spiritual being, Blake Lively made a choice that she was willing to come down on this earth and be absolutely vilified and perhaps do some very wrong things and all the rest of it, and to have all this backlash in order to serve some kind of higher purpose. So I've kind of been looking at it from trying to keep an open mind and trying not to think about in terms of, oh, so she deserves to have this, yeah, they should come down on them like a ton of bricks. I've had that in my mind, and also this sense of, what is it supposed to tell us about ourselves? All of this has to mean something, because it is blowing up Hollywood. It's blowing up our preconceptions of these people that we elevate as heroes, who are just human beings, and are equally capable of making mistakes and doing cruel and hurtful things. But I just find it fascinating that all that time way back when, years and years and years ago, when Colleen Hoover wrote that book that this movie is based on, that the movie she decided to call it It Ends With Us. Because I kind of find that really prophetic. Because here we are down the line all these years later, and the movie itself has been in production or talks or whatever for about 5 years to bring it to this point. And I think that message is just so critical. It ends with us. It's such a reminder that we're in charge of our own destiny. We tell ourselves so many things that we can't do or we can't have or that we must do or should do. And all of these things and all of the grievances, it's all separate. It all separates you. It makes you feel like you're in it on your own, and that everybody's against you or life itself is against you. And I like this title, this thing of just reminding yourself that it does end with us. It ends with you. It's all reliant on you and what actions you take. And what's funny is the follow-up is called It Starts With Us, which again, I feel like is really, really prophetic. So I'm kind of looking at all this movie stuff that's going on with a view to what the greater picture could be trying to tell us around us, and saying, we are all equals. We're not here to think we're better than somebody else, or that our way, should be the highway, you know what I mean, or whatever it is. Because if what's true, what's currently out there is true, Blake Lively's come down here and she's a person who thinks that no doesn't exist for her. She's said it now numerous times at different points of her life over different things, that she doesn't know what the word no means. She doesn't hear it. If she hears no, according to this lawsuit and the stuff that's all out there, she blackmails. So there's been various points in this lawsuit where, they were asking her to adhere to the terms of her contract or just show up on set, or, and she would just retaliate by saying, if I don't get XYZ, then I'm not going to promote this movie, or I won't do this, or I won't do that. So people have had to keep capitulating to her, or they felt they had to keep capitulating to her. Nobody put the foot down. And part of the problem is what I've said before, Justin Baldoni, who seems to be really nice. He's so busy trying to be a feminist that he's not being a great man. He's not really tapping into the masculine, which would have really served him in this way, and he might have upheld some boundaries early doors that would have helped her realise that she wasn't going to get her own way every time, or at least might have stopped her from asking for so much at such an early phase. But on the other hand, it does look like very early doors that they've been trying to control it, trying to control the narrative, trying to control when filming started to suit them. It does look that that Ryan and Blake have tried to have it all their own way, and that as time's gone on, there's been some conflict of personalities in some way. I don't think it does look like sexual harassment at this point. That was the argument at one point, that Blake Lively said he'd sexually harassed her, which all of the information that she's given it doesn't look like it at this point in time, unless she's hiding something back there, you know, for when it goes to court or whatever, but it's not looking that way. But it's like at some point there's been a decision made that they can have control of this, and if they have control of this and he gets done for sexual harassment, then they've got a good chance of wresting control of the sequel, and that might mean mega bucks for her, or more power, or awards, or whatever it is. We don't know. We don't know the truth of it, but we know what it's starting to look like. Trying my best not to cast judgment on it all. But what's kind of been interesting is how you see how everybody rallies around an underdog, and like the whole, you know, computer community, or the mums at home, or the people who have blogs and podcasts and who are just plodding away, just making content all the time, have all kind of jumped on all of the evidence and gone off and done their own investigation and come up with metadata and this and that and the other, and now this law case has been amended to reflect all of the work that the general public has done. But kind of in an interesting way, it shows you what can happen when we do all work together, when we all pull together and we're all united in a common theme. So yeah, I'm kind of trying to watch all of this with really interest. You know, if a big part of it is just to look at the pickles that we get ourselves into when we think we have to have it our own way, or that something only has to look our way, that another person's way is not valid, and when we think that we're better than somebody else as well. It's really quite disturbing when you see it in these terms, and you see people piece together all of the timeline and show you various video clips and footage. It really is disturbing, not just about her personally and what's happened, or him, you know, that Ryan Reynolds and personally but it's just disturbing in terms of, look what we do to ourselves in order to what? Just have more control over a movie that's like not that great particularly anyway. You know what I mean? The book wasn't that great if you're talking in terms of domestic violence and something real and true and what have you. It's romanticised. So you know what I mean? All of this, and she might lose her career. You know, what director's going to work with her after this if they think they're going to be manipulated, or she's going to hold up filming, or whatever it is. I mean, Ryan Reynolds has just made himself look so mean, just fundamentally mean. Because the thing is, when revenge is at the forefront of your mind, when you start plotting revenge over a long period of time, so it's not even like in the heat of the moment and lashing out, or like, you know, doing something that you regret. It means you've calculatedly planned months and months of humiliation for somebody in order to what? To just get your own back on them, or to, I mean, it's just to the point where they've tried to take this man's whole livelihood off him, any chances for his future and his career. You know, it would have impact on his family and everything. So you start to think, well, what can he have possibly done that is so bad that warrants that? Because if he did something that was so bad, you would go to the police or some form of authority, or your agent or your union or whatever. You'd have him kicked off the movie because whatever he'd done had been so bad. You wouldn't make a targeted campaign of months and months of mocking him and humiliating him and dragging your friends into it. That's not how you would respond to somebody doing something truly nasty against your wife. So it's just that idea of, what the heck would you do all that to yourself, or what has to be going on in your mind that you think any of that is justifiable? You know, how self-righteous can you be to do all of that in such a premeditated way? And that's when I try to be my higher self and try to say, well, Anne-Marie, if what you're wanting to believe spiritually and all of that these days, then you have to say that back in the ether somewhere, they put their hands up and volunteered to come down and be these seemingly terrible people, or to be people that take such terrible actions, and be willing to have all of this backlash and all of that. And if that's the point, then we need to take something bigger out of it. We have to look at our own actions and what we do, and in the ways we hold grievances and the way we demand justice for things, or the way that we want it all our own way, and the way that we're cruel to each other, and all of that. And we have to look at, do we want to be like that, or do we want to be more loving and more connected and feel and lean? Because if you lean into loving things, you instantly feel more supported. If you lean into grievances and injustices, you straight away feel like you're in this life on your own and it's unfair and life sucks and all the rest of it. Whereas if you look at anything that happens to you or anything that you're struggling with as, what can I learn from this? Am I truly stuck, or am I just telling myself that? Who can I ask for help? What can I say to myself that is more loving and more supporting and more self-nurturing? Because when you love yourself, any love just kind of multiplies. When you love yourself, you instantly don't feel alone in this world. You know, if you show love to yourself, no matter what anybody else is doing to you, if you love yourself and you nurture yourself and you say good loving things to yourself, and you remind yourself what a good person you are no matter what anybody else says, then you instantly feel better, you feel more supported. It's like that thing that I keep saying, your world looks like whatever you tell it is. It's like a mirror is your world. It's like the Matrix in a way. So whatever you're telling yourself over and over and over again in your mind is what you'll see reflected back to you. So Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have been telling themselves over and over and over again how terrible Justin is, or how weak he is, or, you know, how he must be demasculated, or how he fat shamed her somehow by, you know, recommending his nutritionist for her wellness, his wellness coach for her, and she's taken it to be fat shaming. And because of that, she then kind of looked at the whole scenario as, how many other times has he fat shamed me? What else can I make look like fat shaming, or, you know, some kind of slur on my body? That's basically what she's done. It seems to be more than that. She's taken offence at one little thing that wasn't meant like that, and then she's gone looking for it. And that's exactly what I'm saying here. If you latch onto something, positive or negative, and you run with that, you will see that thing everywhere, because you will look for it and you will choose to make something into that isn't that thing at all. And you can do that in the good way, you know what I mean? You can find good in anything. You can look at anything that happens to you as, like I said, as, what can I learn from this? What was this about? Was I heading down a wrong path? Did this fall through because I'm not meant to head that way? Maybe there's something better coming. You know what I mean? It's all in how you look at it. So Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds have looked at this thing all in this negative way. They've taken issues with this guy's personality because he's really, really nice and he's tried to be accommodating and soft, and they're obviously not used to that kind of a person. So they thought there must be something wrong with him. So they've looked for something wrong with him. They've found something, in their opinion, that's wrong with him, and they've run with it basically, and it's fed itself. These things feed and feed and feed on themselves until they end up being really nasty, like this is looking like. Because this is going to be something a bit controversial that I say here. But I've been thinking it more and more, that even if he did sexually harass her, which I don't think he did, because if the worst of it is this little dance clip that's been released where one side says, well, look, it's completely normal for two people acting like they're supposed to be dancing and falling in love, and her side saying, well, no, because he's nuzzling her, he's saying this and he's saying that, but actually they're twisting the words. They're not the actual words on the audio that's being said. It's far more innocent on the audio. But, you know, if they're... I've lost my train of thought now, but I hope you know where I'm going with it. That, you know, it's just what I'm trying to say, basically, that they went looking for trouble and they found it, and now they're stuck in this loop, really, as well. because the powerful people, they can't be seen to be back to back down in their own minds, in their own egos. They're entirely living in an ego-driven thing where somebody has to be in the wrong, somebody has to be beaten down, somebody has to lose. And they're determined that he's going to lose. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, if that's the worst of the evidence that they've got, this dancing montage clip, which to me looks entirely innocent. It looks like two people doing that awkward thing of trying to act like they're falling in love, where they're just like actors, which it must feel really awkward to film, especially with a whole load of people there. You know what I mean? There were a ton of people there. If he's sexually harassing her, there's like an entire... Why would he do it in front of like 100 people on a film set? And what I'm saying is, even if he has sexually harassed her, the punishment does not fit the crime. Even if you want to say that they come up with evidence where he's sexually harassed her, what they've done is far above and beyond. Like I said before, most women have experienced some form of sexual harassment and they've never done anything about it. They've just taken it on the chin and moved on and, either moved away from the situation or done whatever they had to do, but they've taken it on the chin, you know what I mean? They haven't tried to ruin somebody's life across the entire board over months and months and months. I mean, this Justin, if it's all true, and it's looking like it because it's all in text form, it's all in the messages form, it's like literal stuff that can be pinned to a timeline. I've been in situations in the past where people come at you from all angles and there's no escape, and it's exhausting and draining and tiring. He's lucky he's still standing on his own 2 feet, basically, because unless you've experienced it, you won't understand. It just attacks every inch of you in this really all-pervasive way. It's just absolutely exhausting. You feel like going to bed for days. So that's what's been done to him, not just in a personal sense, but in a professional sense, and in the sense of trying to, successfully affecting his future prospects as well. If you know anything about it, you know that when this movie came out, the promotion, and she was talking about it, she kept bringing it back to la things that were nothing to do with domestic violence, which is a big part of the movie. She kept bringing it back to this, grab your friends, wear your florals and all of this. And there was all this negative press about it. So she did all of this to herself, because then people went looking for all the other times that she'd been really inappropriate. And what happened was she's come out and blamed him for that he's somehow responsible for all her past actions that have come to roost. And she wanted her and Ryan, her husband, have produced this statement that they wanted him to basically put out there or read or whatever it was, just accepting all responsibility for all negative press and everything. Kind of very vague, so that in the future they could have said, well, yeah, but he already accepted that he was responsible for all of that. They tried to get him to do that, which then could have led to them down the road saying, well, he sexually harassed me, and he admitted it because he put that statement out. But even in that statement, they couldn't retain professionalism, because they even there was a line in it about, be man enough to admit to it or whatever, and to practice what we preach. Well, Man Enough is the name of Justin Baldoni's podcast that was about trying to be not a toxic male, trying to be a male feminist or whatever. So even when it came to a statement that they wanted him to put out, using his man enough in, whatever you call these brackets, I can't think of the quotation marks, they wanted him to humiliate him as much as possible, even in that, by using his own podcast against him, and this idea of him being man enough to admit to doing everything wrong and being responsible for all the negative press she got by being herself and saying her own words unprovoked. So I'm finding it, I'm trying to be this higher self person who doesn't deal in grievances and justice and something should be done about this, and she needs to be slapped down or whatever it is. I'm trying to like keep this moral high ground and just really trying to say, what are we all supposed to learn from this? And I think the lesson is that when you let grievances and injustices and what's fair, not fair, and what you should have and all of that, when you let that run your life, that is your ego running your life for you. And I guarantee you, your ego will get you into trouble 100% of the time, because it always needs to fail, does your ego? It always needs somebody to be responsible for something being done to you, you know, so it's not a healthy way to live. And like I say, whatever you choose to look for in life, positive or negative, you will make the world fit that with your thoughts, your action. Because whatever you think on repeat becomes a feeling that you have, and a feeling that you have becomes a behaviour that you do, or a habit that you have becomes actions that you take. And that's what's happened here. She's let one, it sounds like what she's done is let one slight be misinterpreted in a certain way that fits her narrative, because she was slightly overweight because she'd had a baby not long ago. So she's taken that slight, or decided that's a slight, against her. And it might be to fit a bigger agenda as well, because there's all that going on, that did they do this purposefully from the start. But the other idea is that she was offended by something and then went off and built on that and looked for it everywhere and invented it. And that's what you do when you let your ego run your life, is you will think something negative, and you'll think it often enough, you create a feeling, and then you'll go off and act in all kinds of weird ways because you feel that feeling. So you can either choose to do it in a negative way and have your ego run your life, or you can choose to switch up every negative thought and every snap judgment to something positive, and try to look at what you can take from it, and try to look at where you're fibbing to yourself, at what's available to you as well. You know, because it's so easy to say, oh, I want to do this, but I can't because of whatever. And it's usually a fib that you're telling yourself, you know. Remember that thing of every time you say, I think, you're making something up in your head. So you get to choose what you're making up in your head, basically. So you can choose to tell yourself that you're really stuck, that nothing's going to change, it's always going to be like this, it's so unfair. If only I had that, then I could do this. If only something was like that, then I would be whatever. But that is really having no accountability to yourself, because we are all limitless. You know, we were born limitless. All that's happened is we've let our egos run our life. We've let all those little hurts and slights and failings be taken as negatives, basically, and chosen to look for more negative. So anyway, I hope that was slightly interesting, even if you're not up on Hollywood gossip or anything like that. Just really try and look at what this is trying to tell us, that that our lives and our future successes and the outcomes we have in life, you know, it really does end with us, and it also starts with us. You know, I think the titles of those books, more than the content of the books, is so fascinating, because I just think that's the universe that had a little word in that author's ear when she was writing these books. And she herself has had all kinds of calamities because she jumped in and sided with Blake Lively. She made the wrong choice. You know, she snap decision. A woman says something, you instantly believe it. You don't look at all sides of the story. You go where the power is. You know, you jump to the stronger ship, which, you know, could be the Titanic. The Titanic was a big, powerful ship as well. You know what I mean? The dark design was faulty. But you know what I mean? But I just think it's funny, because I just think that it was the universe having a little word in that author's ear years and years and years and years and years ago, whenever she wrote it, and just say, call it ends with us. You know, because the universe is trying to send us a bigger message with it all. That's the way I'm trying to view it all. I'm enjoying kind of the human drama of it all, but trying not to think about, oh yeah, she really needs to be taken down. Trying not to do the grievance and justice and the unfairness, but trying to think, wow, I hope we're all really looking at this and really looking at the thing of, should we be elevating just people who are people like us, you know what I mean? Should we be expecting more of them? Should we just randomly believe them because they have power? No, we shouldn't. We should all be remembering that we all have power. We're all capable of acting badly in any given time, you know, and always listen to the other side of the story, and always be looking for a way through or a way to connect in with each other, rather than isolating each other and, you know, building enemies and frictions and the rest of it, which is all ego driven stuff, you know, that gets you absolutely nowhere, and it can take down and destroy everything you've ever built too, you know. So that's my thoughts on it today. Sorry for going a bit longer, but I'll probably cross-post it to YouTube because I'm doing some YouTube as well, and I've done a few videos on this topic on YouTube. But thank you for listening, and please do take some good out of this. Really examine your own ego and what that voice is saying in your head. And if you are watching on YouTube, please do consider liking and subscribing, or drop me a comment with your own thoughts on it. I would really appreciate it. Thank you.